Okay, hey guys, this is lesson 5.2, which is all about rates. In 5.1, we talked about ratios. Rates are actually very similar. So the first thing you need to know is rates, and then we're going to go over what a unit rate is. These are the two major things you need to know about this lesson. So a rate is a ratio of two quantities using different units. A ratio, what you used before, was comparing similar units. You were always talking about coins or utensils or something of the same exact item. But now it's two completely different units. For example, with money, you use rates all the time. For instance, when you order pizza, an example of a rate would be $27 for 3 pizzas. That division bar in a fraction we can actually use as the word for. So it's $27 for 3 pizzas. Another instance of a rate that you use all the time is miles per hour. The division bar can also be read as per. It all depends on what you're talking about. The next really important factor that you need to know about this lesson, so both of these things should go in your notes, is a unit rate. A unit rate compares a quantity to one unit of the other quantity. So for instance, in the example above, when we had $27 for 3 pizzas, a unit rate is when you would simplify the denominator to become 1, and then it's called a unit rate because then it's telling you how much it is for 1 unit. So it's $9 for 1 pizza, and our unit is pizza. So if you notice here, a unit rate is very similar to a rate, but the denominator has to be 1. But when you make the denominator 1, your numerator can be anything. It can be a whole number, it can also be a decimal. So in the past when I've told you decimals can't be in fractions, that's not the case when you're dealing with unit rates. Okay, so let's do some examples. So the first example we're going to do here is, in a jalapeno pepper eating contest, a contestant eats 70 peppers in 3 minutes. Write a rate that represents this situation. So keep in mind it does not say unit rate, so we don't need to get the bottom to be 1. So when you set it up, it's kind of in that order. 70 peppers in 3 minutes. So the fraction bar in this case would be the word in. So 70 peppers in 3 minutes. So please don't try to memorize all the different words that your fraction bar is. Just think about, how would I say this in a sentence? I could also say 70 peppers for 3 minutes, but that doesn't make as much sense as 70 peppers in 3 minutes. And so your rate is 70 peppers over 3 minutes, and that's it. But what's also important is, because rates have 2 different units, it's important that you say what your units are. In this case, our units are peppers and minutes. 2 completely different units, so you have to write it. Okay, so that's it. It's very, very simple. It's very close to a ratio. You just are talking about 2 different things now. So, and the next example. In orbit, a space shuttle travels 70,000 miles in 4 hours. How far does it travel in 1 hour? So that's another fancy way of asking you for the unit rate, because it's saying you want the denominator to be 1 hour. So all you have to do is put the 70,000 miles in 4 hours, or 70,000 miles per 4 hours. And then in order to make the denominator 1, you just divide by the number that's on your bottom, because we know 4 divided by 4 is 1. So no matter what number's on your denominator, divide by that number, and you'll get a 1 on your denominator. Keep in mind, when you divide on the denominator, you have to divide the same number on the numerator. So that gives us 17,500. So the space shuttle travels 17,500 miles in 1 hour. You do this a lot, and you might not even realize it, because you're always talking about miles per hour. Per usually talks about 1 hour. So we tend to use the word per when we're talking about a unit rate, because there's a 1 on the bottom. Okay, so this is a lot of information. If you haven't understood anything I've said, please rewind and listen to it again. But I'm going to keep going on. Another example, you earned 150 points for every note you successfully hit in a music video game. How many points did you earn? So right now you said, okay, well, what are we talking about? Because it doesn't give us a lot of information. So you have to scan the area to see if there's any more information. And in the picture, it gives you that you hit 25 notes. So you earned 150 points for every note you successfully hit in a music video game. How many points did you earn? So 150 points is for one note. So 150 points for every note. That's for one note. So what you need to do is you set up your rate, which is 150 points per one note, and then you multiply it to 25 because you can see on the picture that you hit 25 notes. So since you hit 25 notes, you need to make that denominator at 25. That will tell you hit 25 notes. So you multiply the top and the bottom by 25, and that gives you 3,750 points. So some of these you don't need to set up this way to solve it because some of you are very capable of doing this in your head. However, I want you to get used to setting it up as a rate and using that to solve it because that's going to help you in the future in math because we're going to use a lot more rates when it comes to more difficult things. So 150 points for every note. We hit 25 notes. So 150 points times 25. So we earned 3,750 points. All right? All right, I think this is the last example. Which bag of dog food is the better buy? So this is actually very practical. You use it a lot in the store, or at least your parents do. So let's see. First, we have to break it down to how much it costs per pound. Because if you notice, they both have a price, and they both have ounces. But the only way to compare which one's the better buy is we need to break it down to a unit rate to figure out how much is it going to be for 1 ounce for each one, and then we can finally compare it. Just like the only way to compare fractions is to have a common denominator, that's the same exact thing here. We need a common denominator. So if we look at both of these, your common denominator could be 40, but because we really want to break it down to its simplest, let's break it down all the way to 1 pound as our common denominator. So if you notice, we set up a rate for the first bag, which is $17.20 for 20 pounds. That's what it gives us right up here, $17.20 for 20 pounds. And then we divide the denominator and the numerator by 20 to make it a unit rate. So that tells us that it only costs 86 cents for each pound. So now we're not done. This is almost like a 3-step process. We have to simplify the first one to get at how much it is each pound, which is 86 cents. And we have to do the same thing on the 40-pound one. So we take the information and we set it up exactly the same, $33.60 for 40 pounds. So now we're going to divide by 40 so that we can make this into a unit rate. Once we do that, and these are harder numbers, so the harder numbers that we get, the more likely you'll be able to use your calculator. Right now I don't want you to, but in the near future you'll be able to. So once we do the division of 33.6 or $33.60 divided by 40, we get it's 84 cents a pound. So now you can easily compare the two bags. The 20-pound one is 86 cents a pound, the 40-pound one is 84 cents a pound. So even though the price is more, it is really the better buy. So our explanation would say because 84 cents is less than 86 cents, the 40-pound bag is the better buy. So it is a better buy. Now, keep in mind, when you go to the grocery store, I would love for you to look. There's usually a price tag. It usually gives you, oh, I don't know, what happened to my pen? Hold on, let me erase this. When you go to any grocery store, usually it'll give you a price right here, and then in this top corner right here will be the unit price, the price per unit. That's how you can compare your prices at the store. So you don't even have to do the math all the time. Well, usually when I'm grocery shopping, I can look at 2 different brands and just look in that top corner and tell which one's going to be the better buy, which one's really cheaper when you break it down to common denominators. All right, so that was the last example. So 5.2 is done. Go ahead and work on your classwork.